Hey guys.
So what's this? It's not a show. In fact, speaking of shows.
Yeah, no kidding. What the hell, man?
So, the last show is going to be out very soon, actually, right after this introduction. It's, just a wee bit late.
A wee late? We recorded him, and it was so fucking long ago. I mean, what?
March. It was March.
Right. Wait, what? That long ago? Holy shit, it's October. It is October, yeah. What's up, dude? What, were you in some kind of fucking Brian Wilson's fugue state?
Scott, Brian Wilson actually passed away. You probably shouldn't go there.
No, fuck that guy. He wasn't dead when we recorded the show.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, still, maybe show a little respect.
Could I say something?
Sure, Mr. Tardy, go ahead. Yeah.
I just want to apologize to both of you and to all of our listeners. Both of them.
Actually, we have a couple more in Germany now.
That's pretty cool. Did you make some friends at Oktoberfest getting some Wiesenkoch?
No, I was not doing the Wiesenkoch. Had nothing to do with that, and I certainly did not.
Okay, all right. So seriously, all Wiesenkoch aside, I'm really trying to make an apology here.
Well, excuse us and fuck Brian Wilson. Hell, we even talked about Ozzy in the present tense. The fuck, man, we've lost a lot of people since we recorded this. Fucking Brian Wilson, Ozzy, David Johansen of the New York Dolls, Dave Allen of Gang of Four, Clem Burke of Blondie, Rick Derringer, Sly Stone, Connie fucking Francis of all people, Chuck fucking Mangione, D'Angelo, Wayne Osmond. When the fuck did he die? And Ace Frehley the other day. What the fuck was that about?
Scott, that's pretty impressive, Scott. Are you reading all these names off Wikipedia or something?
Wait, hold on. That's your takeaway? No comment on Wayne Osmond? Of course I know the Osmonds are near and dear to you, Scott. You got to thank for that Mormon-licious Donnie.
You are like 2 lines on a fucking pregnancy test. You're way fucking late and have no room to give me any shit.
Okay, you're right. I get it. It's been a moment.
Yeah. Not only has it been a moment, we were talking about the Grammys in this episode. The Grammys, like 10 months ago. And I made a crack at Supertramp, and Rick Davies has died since then. Moreover, we talked about Prince's Purple Rain, and recently Stephen Colbert quoted Let's Go Crazy. And we've not been able to talk about any of this. Hell, I talked about the fucking Yacht Rock documentary, and given the public's ADHD these days, nobody even remembers that now.
Oh, and we talked about Rush at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and now they're about to go back on tour with a new fucking drummer.
Right.
Which of you could be we could all be fangirling about that. Come on, she's awesome.
Okay. Fucking A, I'm sorry. It's been a lot of work. It's been, I've had the breakdance troupe. I've got the hours of the closed caption prison love channel I've been watching, my gambling on hobby horse tournaments, the bath salts, the distractions. It all got in the way. I'm sorry.
Wait, bath salts?
Did you say breakdance troupe? The hell? Oh, hi. Oh, welcome to the show. Scott and I were just doing some last-minute preparation here by giving another listen to Led Zeppelin 4.
Yep, it's just one of 4 albums we'll be talking about today. You know, when people talk about Led Zeppelin 4, though, the first thing they always go to is Stairway to Heaven. But I think that kind of overshadows a lot of other great tracks.
Oh, that is so true. I mean, there's so many great songs on this album. You have Black Dog. You have this track, When the Levee Breaks.
Right, Battle of Evermore. What a cool track that is.
Definitely. Yeah, that's... What the...
Oh, greetings, citizens. It is I, Medieval Literature Man.
Oh, no.
My extended metaphor was tingling. I understand you've been listening to the Battle of Evermore by the Led Zeppelin.
Pretty sure it's just Led Zeppelin, but yes, we were.
Well, but did you know Robert Plant's lyrics were inspired by the wars of Scottish independence in the 13th and 14th centuries?
We did.
Yeah, we totally knew that.
Oh, did you know that it was also influenced by the fantasy medievalism of J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings?
Yep.
Oh, Well, what else are you talking about today on your show?
Well, let's see. We got Purple Rain, Abbey Road.
Oh, Abbey Road. Did you know that McCartney's lyrics for Golden Summers were inspired by a 1599 poem by Elizabethan playwright Thomas Dekker?
Again, yes.
We're also talking about Van Halen.
Oh, huzzah! Badass! Which album?
Oh, the first one where he's holding the Frankenstrat on the cover.
Oh, you do know Frankenstein was actually the name of the doctor. The creature was just called the creature.
Yeah, I know. Everybody actually knows that. And what the fuck, man? That's not even medieval. I mean, Mary Shelley wrote that book in the 1800s.
Look, things have been a little slow recently. I've been trying to branch out some.
Dude, is that Funyun dust on your tunic? Are you high right now?
No. It's things have been hard, lads. It's just been really hard.
Jesus, man, pull yourself together.
Many apologies. I just thought I had direction in life. A way to use my passion for literary history in a constructive, positive way. Being the change you want to see in the world and all of that. Turns out there's not much demand for the humanities-based superheroes.
You mean there's more than one of you?
A few. The philosophy phantom, the anthropology angel, the League of Extraordinary Gender Studies. None of us are doing that great. We're all just kind of treading water right now.
Wow, I am sorry to hear that.
Do you have any idea how depressing it is to find yourself pleading with the repo guy trying to haul away your 1997 Ford Fiesta while wearing tights and a cape?
I do not.
No, of course you don't. It's a lingering pain shared only by myself and, well, Rick Wakeman.
Yeah, look, how'd you like to hang out for a while? We can, I don't know, talk about Dante or some shit.
Yeah, man, stick around. I can nuke us some pizza rolls or something.
Oh, huzzah! You mean it?
Of course.
Oh, that is just so... What word do you use? Is it awesome of you two? Oh, so anyways, which circle of hell would you want to talk about first?
Is there one where, the only music is Joni Mitchell?
Well, actually, Joni Mitchell's music is played all throughout hell. All levels get it. Her music is just piped through for everybody. I mean, it's for everybody, really. Everybody evil should have to endure Joni. I mean, because in my day, well, in the days I study, of course, and know all about, Joni would have been called a...
I'm gonna fucking use that.
No, you're not. No.
Because really, it's not that she was so much a whore and a tramp and so many other strumpet as well. Welcome back, everybody. This is Cory.
Dan, this is Dave.
And this is Scott.
Brilliant. Yeah, okay. So I guess we're no longer praising Satan.
Bonus points if everybody at home said it.
Yes. Pavlovian. That pause in your brain, you went, praise Satan. And then it didn't happen. And then you're like, why did I say it? He says it, not me. That's not my bit. That's not my bit. That's his bit. But now you've made it their bit. Brilliant. You did nothing.
I did nothing.
Okay, so this is the last of the Elite. No, Sweet 16.
Sweet 16.
Damn it.
Sweet 16,
yep.
Yeah.
Last Sweet 16. So go ahead, Dave.
We worked through our last 12 albums on the previous 3 episodes. These are our last 4 today. And after this, we move on. We will be down to 8 albums, which we will recap at the end of the show just to remind everybody what those are. And then we move on to the Elite 8. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that will look like.
Yeah. Because we're still figuring it out. Yeah.
We're also going to talk about the Grammys today, so stay tuned for that.
And Satan will be involved somewhere along the line. Don't worry.
Okay, so let's get this started then.
Yeah,
let's get to round 1.
Go. It's good round. Do thing.
Yes. All right. Our first round are 2 heavy hitters and albums that most boomers had the original albums of in their home. I can attest, as I had the copies from my parents. Our challengers today are Led Zeppelin with their 4th album. Yes, the one was Stairway, which subsequently every child of those boomers had on cassette for themselves. This was Led Zeppelin on their way to their peak material and finding their true voice and sound with some of the biggest hits known by all, Black Dog, Rock and Roll, and of course, Stairway to Heaven. But before you go and cast your vote so easily, Led Zeppelin takes on the Beatles with their true last album, Together, where all 4 members and George Martin at the helm gave us the iconic Abbey Road. An album that was truly the cumulative final exam of a stunning career that took place in an incredibly short amount of time. The Beatles have charged their way here by stomping on Bob Dylan and his Blonde on Blonde album, then rolled over the Stones with their Sticky Fingers album, and finally took out the Police's juggernaut, Synchronicity. Led Zeppelin beat out an earlier Beatles album in the first round, Help! Dave's bit, followed by taking the boss behind the woodshed with his Darkness on the Edge of Town, and finally was a total Karen and got the manager involved to beat out It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back by Public Enemy. So let's start with Led Zeppelin and the production of their self-titled fourth album.
Led Zeppelin's definitely a Karen. I love him, though.
Yeah, so kicking off with production value. So once again, we have a Led Zeppelin album. It was really primarily produced by Jimmy Page, although this time they did also hire as an engineer Andy Johns.
Yes.
And Johns definitely knew what he was doing behind the desk too. So the production values really took off once you kind of put Page and Johns in the same room together. They started in London, put down a few basic things in London, but it wasn't too long before they picked up and moved out to Headley Grange, which was this big country house in England where they had previously recorded parts of Led Zeppelin 3. So they kind of moved into the house for a while and got to work doing writing and producing. Really, once again, another example of Page taking advantage of the space. So in particular, the story that you may have read or heard about this is When the Levee Breaks. The drums on that track were just massive for the time. And in Headley Grange, there was this big entry hall called the Minstrels Gallery. And basically what they did is they had John Bonham, set up his kit right in the middle of the hallway. They hung 2 separate microphones in the stairwell next to the hallway, pointed them at the drum kit, and just got this massive reverb around the room that was so huge that then on top of that, they took the signal from that and compressed it into the studio to make it sound even bigger. And the kick drum was so huge, they didn't even separately mic it. Normally, you at least put a mic right in front of the kick drum, but they didn't even bother this time. Another example of like Page really just kind of using the space to his advantage and getting some ambient sound.
Yeah, Andy Johns, if you recognize the name maybe, Glenn Johns is his older brother that worked with the Stones and worked with the Beatles. It must be a family thing. And Andy had already worked at this time with Jimi Hendrix and the Rolling Stones. And also what I did find out too was some of the guitar stuff that they were doing. So they would have a mic in front of the guitar and they would keep a mic somewhere else in the room as well. So you would in front of the amp, not in front of the guitar, but in front of the amp and also in the room. So you would kind of get a balance of both of them, which was really cool. And the bass...
They take those 2 signals and kind of blend them together into what sounded like just one
exactly.
microphone.
And with the bass, they were doing directly into the board and also in front of the amp. This is something that we'll talk about with the next album, because this is something they started to do long ago. I think the Beatles kind of started this, was to have both the bass coming in, so you get a clean sound from that, and you also had the mic in front of the bass amp, so you could get a little bit more of the ass that's coming out of that. But quality stuff, I mean...
A little more of the ass?
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Get a little bit more ass. Get more of that back end. It's all about that bass, baby. All about that bass.
Well, I mean, that's the production on this was also... They were kind of at the top of their game at this point.
Almost.
Yeah.
This is their 4th album. They're really chugging right along. Led Zeppelin 3 didn't do so well, even though musically it's my favorite album. But whatever. But 4, I think, really cemented the fact that, okay, Page is a really great producer.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that he would use the engineers as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
He had the final say at the end, but he was at least taking some suggestions from others in building.
Sure.
I think that's where Houses of the Holy and Physical Graffiti are just so much better because of everything they learn along the way.
I think it comes too with his background as a studio musician, of being able to work with anybody. If they're paying customer, work with them.
When you said studio musician, I mean that's what John Paul Jones was prior to join us. So I mean they're all just dedicated professional musicians.
Something I learned when I was reading up on the production of this album, I didn't realize that Black Dog, which is the opening track on the album, there's a solo that fades out at the end. Mm-hmm. It's actually not a solo exactly. What they did was they took little bits and snippets of things that Page had played while they were recording the main part of the track, and they cut those up and spliced them together to make it sound like a single guitar solo. But it was actually just little bits of like things that he had played that they spliced together and made it sound like a single solo fading out.
Oh wow.
The wiki page says the solos on the outro were recorded directly into the desk without using an amp.
Oh, without an amp.
It says without using it.
Maybe they were just like his rhythm guide tracks to follow, and in the end they went, "Hey, we like."
They also
this.
said that the a cappella version section of the song was influenced by Fleetwood Mac's
Yes.
"Oh Well." Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like that call and response.
Can't help about the shape I'm in. I can't sing, I ain't pretty, and my legs are thin. But don't ask me what I think of you. I might not give the answers that you want me to.
Yeah.
Well, that song actually was, so like I said, they were at Headley Grange, this big country house, and that song is actually named after like a stray dog that was just hanging around the house the entire time.
And we'll come to the songwriting, but the riff that John Paul Jones used in that is is inspired by Howlin' Wolf's Smokestack Lightning, which was also covered by the Yardbirds.
Yeah.
I mean, now we're kind of drifting into songwriting a little.
Right.
But one last story on production that I wanted to share. So as much as Andy Johns did to like really turbocharge the production on this album, he also made one goof that almost screwed up the whole goddamn thing. After they got some basic tracks down in Headley, they went back to London to add a few overdubs. And then Andy Johns said, hey, let's go out to Sunset Sound in Los Angeles to do the final mix, because we've mixed there before and it came out great. And I just really think if we go back to that studio to do the mix, it'll be perfect. So he and Paige get on a plane. They take all the tapes out to LA. They do a full mix of the album. What they did not realize is that just a few months prior to that, Sunset Sound had replaced all the monitors in the place.
Oh.
And when you're doing recording and mixing, they're basically just speakers, but they're a special kind of speaker, usually with a monitor you want. If you go out to Best Buy or whatever and you buy a set of stereo speakers, they're almost always been carefully constructed and tuned to accent particular frequencies in the range. So like if you're really into hip hop, you're going to want speakers that really punch the low end, the bass, the drums, everything. If you're into like pop music, you might still want something that hits sort of the higher end of the spectrum. If you're into classical, you might want something that's got sort of a little bit of everything. And they design speakers specifically this way. Well, studio monitors, you're looking for something different. They're usually looking for something called a flat response, which basically means the speaker does not color the sound in any way. The shorthand way of saying it is flat response speakers make it sound bad on purpose. If you're getting a flat response, then you're really hearing what's on the recording. And basically the rule of thumb is if you can make it sound good on a good set of flat response monitors, it'll sound good on anything. Unfortunately, the monitors that they had put in Sunset Sound were not flat response. They actually weren't great monitors at all. So they got this mix all together at Sunset Sound. They're like, great, ready to go. Let's fly back to London and hand this thing over for pressing. They fly back to London, they start playing through it, and it's fucking terrible. Just one track after another does not sound anything like what they were going for. Jimmy Page later said that Andy Johns should be hung, drawn, and quartered for that.
Damn.
Wow.
Page took it upon himself to fix the whole thing, but it made the whole album come out 6 months later than they planned because it was such a screw up that they had to fix.
Damn. Wow, that's very pertinent information here.
Interesting. So Sunset Studios, and this is going to come back around. That is where Purple Rain was recorded because it was before he built Paisley Park.
Right.
They had a few years to fix it.
Didn't Dave Grohl do like a documentary about that place?
That was wait, the other one. Oh shit, what was the name of it?
Sun
Records in Memphis. It was mostly about the board, believe it or not.
Yeah. The giant
that he now
board
has at his Studio 606.
Yes.
Oh yeah. I know. Okay, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Sound City.
Sound City. Yeah, that was it.
Sound City.
Sorry.
All right, so
not that one.
All right, so anyway, that's the production on Zep.
Yeah, for
4.
sure.
I don't know if you guys have anything to add to that, or we can move.
Not
on.
really.
Let's go to Abbey Road.
So speaking of like boards and technology in the studio, so they sat down to do Abbey Road, and they really wanted something that was a more dense sound than they'd ever had before. Up until this point, pretty much every Beatles album had been done on a 4-track, including Sgt. Pepper's. This time they actually opted for what then was relatively new 8-track technology, which gives you a lot more room to work and add things and add layers. And then on top of that, back to this, you guys were just talking about control desks. Prior to this album being recorded, just a few months before, Abbey Road had been fitted with a new solid-state console that gave you much like clearer, warmer sound, especially on the bass. When you kind of like mix the fact that they're using 8-track, that they had this really smooth, warm board. Generally, this is kind of accepted among a lot of critics as being really the most polished of all the Beatles records.
Yeah, George Martin coming back because he didn't work on the White Album with him. In fact, the engineer they had, Jeff Emmerich, actually walked out of the White Album sessions because there was just too many tensions between the band. There was a lot of chaos, and he walked out. It was actually Paul that called him and personally sought him out to come back for Abbey Road. But more importantly, George Martin is truly not only the fifth Beatle, but he's the Beatles' parent. He's the guy that comes in and he could actually resolve tensions between John and Paul. And that's why I think that they could collaborate better. And this really is their last collaboration because, as we all know, we've talked about Let It Be. They all recorded in different places. They weren't all in the studio at the same time. And this really was the last time they were together. It's a return to the professionalism. It's like, look, if you're here, you're not screwing around. We're recording. We're not fucking off like you did through the White Album. We're going to get shit done. What George Martin has done really does make the Beatles because that sound and how he can put things together, that's him. They bring their talent, their songwriting, but he adds just that little extra touch.
Yeah, more than a little extra touch, because George Martin was working a lot with McCartney, was really one of the two main architects of the medley on side B, which was like one of the more innovative things of this album, where they took a bunch of like disparate little things that were half finished and strung them together to sound like a cohesive work. That by itself was a huge production task, like just trying to make all that stuff fit together the right way and sound like it was a single piece.
Because what he did is when he worked with him and Paul created these key modulations. So when you're changing the key of a song, you use like certain notes or certain chords to go in between the transition. So it sounds like it's part of the song. And then he had Paul actually reuse like some of the notes and like motifs that he had already used before. Very like a Wagnerian opera in a way. There's that little motif, that little sound, or there's a certain amount of chords that'll just keep coming back and repeating, let you know, oh yeah, we're still in this same piece. We're still in the same opera kind of thing. That was truly, again, why you call George Martin the fifth Beatle.
Absolutely.
He probably helped tone down some of the tensions because of Yoko being there, too. Yoko was pretty much in the studio the entire time they were doing this and caused quite a bit of consternation amongst the Lennon-McCartney thing.
To the point where I think I read at some point during the recording of this, Yoko had like some sort of medical procedure and had to like stay in bed. Yeah. And Lennon actually had a hospital bed brought into Abbey Road so she could be in the studio laying in bed while they were recording this thing.
Crazy.
That's nuts.
Just leave her at home. Maybe.
Yeah.
Like, they needed a Jenna Fine picture in there.
They really did.
Just saysaying. Hey, look at this battle apple. She's got a great battle apple. Look at that. How about that? That's girl repellent right there.
The other big production thing about this album is this is actually the only Beatles album that was recorded, mixed, and mastered from start to finish in stereo.
Yeah, that's true.
There had always, even right up to Sgt. Pepper's, been some that mono coming into the mix, and this is 100% in stereo, and it's a different kind of stereo. Prior to this time, stereo was not a new thing, but stereo, if you put on, the easiest way to think about stereo, you put on a set of headphones, you're probably used to this, even if you don't know much about what stereo is. Some of the sound's coming from the left, some of the sound's coming from the right, some of it sounds like it's coming from the center. Well, stereo up to this point, those were your only three options. For any given channel, like the drums, the drum track, the guitar track, the vocals, you could send it all the way to the right, all the way to the left, or dead center. Those were your only three choices. When Abbey Road was being recorded, stereo had gotten to the point where now you could put the guitar just 15% to the left and 85% on the right, or a tambourine just 35% on the left and 65% on the right. So instead of having just three options, now all of a sudden you had the full depth of field of stereo to work with. And so you hear this on like things like the opening to Here Comes the Sun, where you have George Harrison's guitar comes in and it starts on the left, and then there's a synth that starts on the left and it moves to center, and then George's voice comes in on the center right in the front, and the strings come in on the right. You just have all of this option and you get a much more immersive sound because of it.
And that was also the introduction of like the Moog synthesizer. That was in Here Comes the Sun.
They used Leslie speakers a lot on this thing too. And I know Alan Parsons was like assistant engineer on it.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, Parsons did assist with the engineering. The other thing production-wise about this is people always point to this is the first hidden track on an album. So you get to the end of the medley, there's 20 seconds of silence, and then there's Paul comes in with this like little dinky song called Her Majesty. That was actually a production goof. Originally, when they were working on the medley, they had that sunk between, there's different sections of the medley, and there's one section called Mean Minister Mustard, and then right after that is a section called Polythene Pam. Her Majesty was originally sandwiched between those two pieces.
Oh.
And when they were playing it back and trying things in the studio, McCartney decided, I just don't like it there. He said, can we just take it out? They cut it out. They spliced those two pieces back to fit. Because George Martin was kind of such a perfectionist, he had always told his engineers, do not throw anything away, basically, because we never know what we're going to need. They cut it out and handed it off to the second engineer at the end of the day. And he's like, okay, well, Martin says, don't throw anything away. I don't know what to do with this. So I'm just going to tack it onto the end of the master tape. After 20 seconds of silence, they just spliced the tape together and put it at the end so they would have it. When they handed that tape off for the final, they put on the box, don't use this. It was like right on the, like they actually wrote on the box, like this bit at the end, Her Majesty, this is not supposed to be used. But then the mastering engineer, who had also been trained never to throw anything away, actually cut a production lacquer of the whole sequence with the gap and then Her Majesty. And when they played it back, they realized what had happened. And McCartney's like, you know what? I kind of like it. And the rest of the Beatles like, yeah, we kind of like it too. And so there you go. The hidden track was born out of a total screw up.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, they were the first to do it. Okay.
All right, so
all right.
Production?
Yeah.
Scott, you want to weigh in?
God, these are both juggernauts. Wait, we're voting on this?
Yeah, production.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry. Wait, you're like, what?
Sorry. It's Scott's first time on the podcast.
Yes. Welcome to the show.
It is. I know, I'm new here. I don't know what I'm doing, praise Satan. Honestly, I'm going to give it to Led Zeppelin on this, just because I feel like they were in the middle of their game, whereas the Beatles were kind of on their way out, and there were a lot of tensions, and that did bleed over some.
Okay.
All right.
I'll go second. I don't think you have what occurred in Led Zeppelin 4 without Abbey Road. Jimmy Page has actually pointed back and cited Abbey Road to the production of Led Zeppelin 4. I'm going to vote for Abbey Road. So, Dave, you can break the tie.
No, that's a fair point. I mean honestly,
that's a very good point.
It didn't occur to me that Abbey Road was 2 years prior to Zepp 4, but I was probably going to go Abbey Road anyway, just because, again, there's just so much on that album that is... Yeah, Page was really, really good at this, but George Martin was like exceptionally good at this. And that medley, which is almost like the defining piece of Abbey Road at this point, that doesn't happen without his production value. So I got to go with Abbey Road as well.
All right.
Okay.
We move on to songwriting. It's Zeppelin. I'll just pick up where we left off, where we talked about Black Dog. You referenced Oh Well from Fleetwood Mac, and I mentioned, the Smokestack Lightning, which covered by the Yardbirds, which then I did another dive, and I was like, hold on. Soundgarden, George Thorogood, Lynyrd Skynyrd, and even the Grateful Dead have covered this song. Now, of course, their version's surprisingly much longer, believe it or not.
Oh, the Grateful Dead? Yeah, they play like a 30-minute song. Oh, they're so great, man.
They're the only band I know that can turn it.
The Dead made everything 30 minutes.
They could turn a 2-minute song in a half an hour.
I hate the Dead.
Yeah. But what I like about Black Dog is it's in 4/4, but it doesn't feel like it because Bonham's playing that halftime and he's doing it and he's hitting things at odd times that you don't expect. So it's very cool.
Well, I actually think it's in 4/4, but I think on every single time the band comes in, there's one measure that's 5/4, which is I think what throws it off. They do this weird 5/4 thing with one of the beats.
That probably makes more sense, but it just seems like they're just coming in like a little bit later than okay, this should be the downbeat, but it's not.
Yeah, exactly. And that was actually off-putting to me from Zeppelin for a while because this is not the only time like they do stuff like that where the beat gets off and it takes a little while to appreciate it because your brain wants that 4/4 resolution. Even if you don't understand anything about time signatures, your brain wants that finite cutoff, and it just doesn't happen at the right moment.
Well, I think it finally just comes down to familiarity. You just know it now. You expect it. Your brain's not going to go there anymore.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it's almost like if you write a song and you start with in the key of C, but you end on a B chord. It's just enough to screw with your brain because it doesn't actually resolve itself.
You resolve that fourth. Damn you. I actually did read somewhere that dance music, they will sit on that fourth for a long time, and that's what builds the anticipation.
Build the
tension and anticipation.
Yeah.
And then when they finally resolve it, you're like, oh, thank you. Dear God, how long did it take you to get here?
It's like trying to rub one out on your battle apple. Yeah, but stuff like...
Go on.
I was just going to say, then there's songs like Battle of Evermore with the mandolin and, and just the lyrical content. And they had Sandy Denny singing on it.
Yeah.
Who I found out she died by falling down a flight of stairs. Isn't that horrible?
Whoa.
7 years after she recorded this, age 31.
Yeah, she was very young.
And she was in Fairpoint Convention,
Tragedy.
which is a callback to when we, Richard Thompson.
Right.
Fairport Convention.
What did I say?
Fairpoint.
Fairport. Oh. Reading. I'm not, Reading helps.
Fairfield.
I don't know. Battle of Evermore
Redfield.
sometimes, as good as it is, just, I don't know. I feel it's a bit of a slog.
It goes on too long, in my opinion. Yeah. I agree.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that song. That's like Four Sticks. I love Four Sticks now. That's a song that I used to be, it was like, skip, skip. But now, I'm like, holy fuck. He's using 4 fucking drumsticks. Oh my God. And then you hear it, especially if you listen with headphones. Damn. That's the way to do it.
But that's kind of that's kind of like one of the challenges with judging songwriting is like, Scott, your perfect example of what you just said. It is crazy impressive that Bonham was able to hold like 2 sticks in each hand and actually pull all that shit off. And yet at the same time, it doesn't necessarily make the song any easier to listen to.
Yeah.
Really?
You appreciate the technical challenge, but it doesn't mean you necessarily want to sit and listen to it.
I give it points for experimentation. I give it, points for stepping outside the boundary. Be like, yeah, he was doing something cool, but you couldn't get the rest of the band to kind of put something else behind it. I don't know.
I thought Page's guitar part was a little lame, frankly.
Well, that's kind of what Dave's saying.
It was almost like the guitar was there just to justify the drums.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Still, I enjoyed it.
Back to Battle Evermore, one of the things I was going to say, Scott, you just made this reference to Battle Apple. I mean, we were talking, I was just pointing this out to these guys yesterday. I've never really focused on the lyrics to that too much. And Paige wrote the lyrics. The whole thing's about the Scottish independence wars. Paige sat down and wrote the lyrics. Last show, we talked about Asia and we talked about Steely Dan's weird lyrics, and one of them was Shine Up the Battle Apple. Everybody's like, what the fuck is a battle apple? But this one is actually about a battle and has multiple references to apples in the lyrics. And so here's a quote from the lyrics. The apples of the valley hold the seeds of happiness. The ground is rich from tender care. Repay, do not forget, no. Oh, dance in the dark of night. Sing to the morning light. The apples turn to brown and black. The tyrant's face is red. So if there was ever a song that could have used a line about a battle apple, it was this one, not Steely Dan.
Oh, for sure. The Battle of Apple.
The Battle of
Ever Apple.
Steve Jobs.
Great song, though.
We salute.
Great
Yes.
song.
So I was going to mention how the opening riff of Rock and Roll is just so iconic.
Yeah.
It's actually straight from a song by Little Richard called Keep a Knockin'. It opens the same way.
Including the drum beat?
The drum line is exactly this, is pretty much almost the same. I'll put it in here. When you hear the opening of Keep a Knockin', so I mean think about it. It's a song about rock and roll. It's almost a historical piece in a way. They're paying homage. It's 12-bar blues. It's a little bit faster.
Yes.
So yeah, at least the ending was his own.
It's bouncy
for Bonham.
Okay, so here's another. Corey, you're touching on another challenge with the songwriting here. So this is another one of these albums that we just talked about. First of all, the albums where it's like you appreciate the songs where you appreciate the technical prowess, but the song itself isn't that great. The other thing that goes on here is, once again, we have Jimmy Page's penchant for stealing little bits and bobs from other people. Like, that's a perfect example. But then you have Stairway, which is a brilliant song, but they got sued by a band called Spirit that they had stolen that opening from a song called Tourist that Spirit had done a few years ago. Now, they ended up beating that rap in court. That issue went to court and they lost, and Spirit lost. But then you have Levy. Levy was a quarter, and they did not give any writing credit to the original artist, and they ended up actually, because of litigation there, had to redo the album sleeves to give Memphis Minnie a writing credit so that she would get a cut of the profits from that song.
The original version is actually really, really good too. So
yeah, I don't know if I've ever heard the original.
It's worth listening to. Not at all like their version, and yet it's got that deep Delta blues feel, because it is. So
with the Levee Break, I mean, I get it. They are always going back to their blues, but it's a cover, and it's a 7-minute cover.
Yeah, it's too long, way too long.
I get you want to do covers, you want to pay homage to the people that have inspired you and all, but at 7 minutes, you're like, okay, if this was one of yours, that's one thing. And like to Dave's point, they didn't give credit.
Yeah.
They didn't even get credit. And the other thing is, like we talked about those drums and the production value, this is where you get into like a gray zone between what's songwriting and what's production. That drum bit to When the Levee Breaks it's a huge drum sound. It's been sampled like crazy, which we'll talk about
all
that
over
in a
the
second.
place.
But take away the production value on those drums, what do you got? I'm not sure you got a lot if you lose those drums from that track.
This was the one track that I felt like wasn't produced very well. I mean, that harmonica drones over the vocals, and some of the layering is just, I don't know, it's annoying, especially when it's a blues song. It should be a little bit more raw.
That's When the Levee Break, that's the one they spent all the time hanging the mics over a flight of stairs and shit
to get the drum sound.
But that's what I'm saying. Is it? Do you credit the songwriting? We just said it was great production,
right?
But if you take away the production value, is the songwriting there?
Well, song arrangement.
Yeah,
you don't write a cover,
and you're right, and that's exactly my point. Like, there's a little bit of a gray zone here between what's production and what's songwriting.
Well, songwriting, I think, covers.
Yeah,
if you take someone else's song and you arrange it differently or change the key.
Yeah, when you make a cover your own, yes, you are doing a new arrangement.
Yeah,
unless you're just playing it straight like the original, then it's like, well, okay, why didn't you bring anything else to the table? That's always been my issue with when people do covers. It's like, bring something unique about yourself to this.
That's what I hate about bar bands. Please, will you make it a little different? I fucking didn't come here to hear the radio.
Or if I did, I could just put on the jukebox.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Be 4 guys playing I Touch Myself.
Yeah, exactly.
Have a gimmick.
It's good for you.
Yeah. All right, the Beatles then. Go on.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to say... Sorry.
You do it. I'm stepping back. I'm back. I'm out.
Kind of like Rubber Soul, you're in this mode now where you've got more of the Beatles contributing individual pieces, and so you get a really kind of diverse set of songs across this. Not always great. I mean, some of it is, a lot of it is, but there's a real sort of varied sound here, and a lot of people look at this album and say it's really more of a reflective. I think it's because it's increasingly evidencing their own personal tendencies as songwriters. But there's a lot of great songs here. Come Together, Something, Here Comes the Sun, an awful lot of that medley, not all of it, but an awful lot of it. There's some really, really creative stuff here.
Yes, absolutely. Like Oh Darling, I think it's overlooked. And I think it's a great throwback to what we were just talking about, like the 50s, 60s songs. To your Little Richard, your Fats Domino, your Chubby Checker, and the strong vocal delivery. And apparently, Paul would sing the song every morning for a week to wear his voice to the point where it kind of had a bluesy raw sound. But maybe I'm just listening to the remaster. It still sounds like Paul without too much raspiness.
Yeah, there's just a little bit of edge to his voice. I think when he came into the studio to actually record that, he wanted to do it first thing in the morning because he wanted to do it before his voice warmed up so that he got that sound.
Yeah. And people hate on Maxwell's Silver Hammer.
I was just reading about that.
It's so vaudeville.
I'm in that club.
And it's fun. You got a cheerful melody with lyrics about a serial killer.
I love that song. It's so fun.
Isn't that not what the Goths did? Cheerful music, sad, dark lyrics.
Yeah, exactly. Look, I'm so happy. I'm in love, but I want to die. Look, I'm dead.
So... That song was actually, McCartney originally introduced that during the Let It Be sessions, and they originally, they pushed it off the White Album because they said that's too complicated, and then they started playing around with it during the Let It Be sessions, and they couldn't get it down, so McCartney brings it back here. Yeah, a lot of people don't love that song, inclling the other Beatles.
The other Beatles.
John Lennon called it more of Paul's granny music. Harrison, in a 1977 interview, called it fruity.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
And Ringo said it was the worst track we ever had to record and that the sessions went on for fucking weeks.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, if Ringo calls your songwriting shit, take him at his word, because the man knows a thing or two about writing shit songs.
Yeah, you know what? Octopus's Garden, yeah, you throw out the lyrics, but yeah, I like how George Harrison arranged it. It's a fun song. At the end of their career, I think they needed more of those. I think you needed Ringo to be the balance between all the tension.
I think they let him sing that one specifically so that nobody would think that any of the others wrote it. Like, you want to do this, fine, but you're on your fucking own.
I don't know if we mentioned this before or not, but the song "Because" is the chord progression of Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata played backwards, because Yoko was playing it on piano, and then John went, hold on, and then did it backwards. And then it's the 3-part harmony, which was one of the hardest harmonies he ever did. And then George Martin doubled that. Yeah. So it sounded almost like a full chorus.
That's my favorite track on this album. The sound on that song is just so unique because of its classical influence.
I'll always point to "Here Comes the Sun." I feel like it's simple, poetic, beautiful, timeless. I mean, if there's few songs out there I call a perfect song.
Songs.
"Here Comes the Sun" is one of them.
And this is another one, kind of like what we just talked about with Black Dog. This is another one where you have multiple time signatures that come in, especially on the bridge. And it's because, you're at a point now where Harrison was really getting influenced by Indian classical music. And so that's why the thing changes tempo a few times. I've always found the lyrics to be a little bit meh, but other than that, it's a great song. It is a great song. And something, yeah.
And I feel like it's not just Harrison, but it's something we've talked about before. It's Harrison having the other three able to give their inspiration or what they feel is their parts to these songs. And that's what makes them the Beatles. That's what makes them strong together and not so strong individually.
Yeah, Sinatra used to cover that in concert, and Sinatra would call it the greatest love song in the past 50 years.
Yeah.
Now, Sinatra would also routinely call it his favorite Lennon-McCartney song. So he wasn't too clued in on the background, but he was a fan.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, it's just there's so much good on this album. I mean, there's a lot of good songwriting on this album.
All right, I think we can vote here.
Indeed.
Yep. I'll start. I'm going to go Abbey Road. Dave?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing these two have in common is they're both very varied. Right.
Yes.
I mean, you have Zeppelin, this is a good mix of like the hard driving Zeppelin and a good mix of the more folkier, softer Zeppelin, and Stairway, which is a little bit of everything. And then Abbey Road is all over the place musically too. And of course, with Abbey Road, you don't have the accusations of plagiarism going all over the place. Honestly, I think I got to go Abbey Road as well.
Not that it matters, but I would have said Abbey Road as well on this one.
Okay.
Just because they didn't include covers that were so...
Well, I mean, we didn't even talk about Stairway. And I mean, Stairway is, of course, just...
Oh, no.
I mean, but what can we really say at this point? That no one else... We've said this many times. What can we say that anybody else has not already said?
Come on. Everybody knows. Great song. Yes.
It is. Absolutely. Agreed. Influence. Zeppelin's got a huge influence here too.
Yes.
We've mentioned Black Dog and rock and roll. I mean, those bluesy heavy riffs, you can point right to Aerosmith. You can point to Van Halen.
This album brought a lot of guitar players and musicians like, whoa, it got our attention and it made us go, hey, I want to do that.
And even their intricate works of Battle of Evermore and Stairway. I mean, you can point to the Progs. You can point to Yes. You can point to Genesis with their 22-minute Supper's Ready. You can even go as far as pointing to Bohemian Rhapsody, because both that and Stairway, there's no chorus. It's just all dynamic sections throughout. So I would give it that. And Heart, we mentioned before. Yeah, Heart's, go back and listen to their albums, Dreamboat, Annie, and Little Queen. They may as well be
those albums
straight from Zeppelin 4.
So much better than the 80s crap.
Right. And then Dave mentioned the sampling. So like When the Levee Breaks, Beastie Boys, Dr. Dre, Eminem, even Rick Rubin kind of lifted Andy John's drum sound engineering and applied it in some of his hip hop loops.
Bjork and Beyonce used that sample too. I mean, it's probably it's arguably like the most sampled drum by that and Funky Drummer by James Brown. It's probably a close tie on which one's been sampled more.
Wow. Alrighty.
So there's a lot of inspiration here.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
There is, but that's the same is true about Abbey Road, obviously. Like, you talk about Here Comes the Sun. The 70s folk rock, huge influence on 70s folk rock. I don't know if you'd say it started it, but it certainly heavily influenced it. I Want You, She's So Heavy. A lot of people consider that actually the first heavy metal song in some ways, especially because of the way it builds towards the end, that like driving crescendo, and then all of a sudden it cuts hard. It's not, I mean, it's not heavy metal in the sense that you would think about it today, but it's like heavy, the first, all that feedback and distortion and stuff. Scott's looking at me like I'm crazy.
Yeah, pretty much.
The medley is, I mean, a lot of prog rock kind of picked up on that and moved forward with this medley concept of like having one long piece with different movements and sections that go on for an entire side of an album.
Yeah, the seamless transitions. We can point to Dark
Right.
Side of the Moon.
Oh, sure.
Well, and like Dark Side of the Moon, like this is one of those albums where people have not just covered individual songs, but have covered the entire album because it was such
Right.
an influence on them.
Right. And I mean, we can even go back to, I mean, I mentioned it with Stairway, but Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody and the Prophet song. I mean, the way they change up things. So even the changes in those arrangements are much like the medley.
That's back when I didn't mind listening to long songs because they were actually interesting. And whereas now people seem to write songs and they just go off on tangents, and it's like, okay, you're just masturbating. Stop
Yeah,
it.
we're up to the fifth
Gross.
guitar
Pretty
solo.
much.
What's the point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back when a guitar solo meant something.
And as we already mentioned, the first hidden track, which, you know, is you
Right.
see all over the place now.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Innovators.
Yeah. And then studio influences.
unintentional, but-
Donald Fagen and Walter Becker have both cited approaching their albums like Abbey Road, that kind of detailed stuff. And of course, the obvious, Alan Parsons. We already mentioned Dark Side of the Moon because he worked
Right.
as an assistant engineer, but he applied a lot of those production techniques to his own band and other bands that he worked with.
Yeah, go back and listen to like Turn of a Friendly Card. Wow.
Yeah.
There's a good album, especially when in a production value sense. You just, holy shit, a man who knows production is Alan Parsons, and just always love their stuff.
No, and he just hears something that nobody else does, and you go, wow, why did you put that there? And you're like, oh, that works. There's almost like...
Yeah, the Beatles did do that a lot.
I'm trying to think. There's one of his songs, I think it's maybe it's Eye in the Sky or Don't Answer Me. Like in the chorus, you hear like this slight jangly acoustic with headphones right at the beginning, right at the downbeat. And you're like, ooh. Just you hear the strings just kind of being hit like almost like deek, 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 like that. And you're like, ooh. Just something little, just subtle like that.
I don't think it's Eye in the Sky. Eye in the Sky is the one you always hear like at the opening of sporting events.
Oh no,
playing over
that's
this-
serious. Oh no, it's the lead in to Eye. Okay, you're right.
It's the lead in. Yeah, it's the intro.
It's the intro to Eye in the Sky. Yeah, but you're right. Alan Parsons he hears things and he puts things in that you don't expect. Anything else we can say about influence? Okay, Dave, you want to go first this time?
Yeah, I'm going with Abbey Road. These are both heavily influential albums, but again, all that innovation, the medley, the hidden track, all the production values. To me, it edges out Zeppelin here.
Scott.
Yeah, I've got kind of the same vibe here. It's like Abbey Road influenced Zeppelin 4, so yeah, it's
You
Abbey
can't have
Road,
one
so-
without the other, and yeah.
Right, one doesn't exist without the other.
Corey made that same point earlier, and I'd already forgotten to think of that.
Yeah.
actually.
Very valid.
All right, so that's 3 sections for Abbey Road. So, fluff, I don't think we even need to cover.
I don't even know if we need to talk about consistency.
Yeah.
No, we don't.
I'll tell you what, I would bottom line it and just say this. In terms of consistency, I would have gone with Zeppelin.
Same.
Because when I think about the track, I largely think about consistency of like what could have been cut. And there's just less to cut on Zeppelin there is on Abbey Road, in my opinion.
Abbey Road had some stuff that it's like, I'm not going to listen to that again.
Well, and Abbey Road's one of those to where they really should make the medley one track. Because if you have it on shuffle and one of them comes up, you're like, oh. And you expect the next part. But
it's really weird to hear it out of sync. Yeah, so.
All right, so the Beatles move on.
Bum, bum. Bye-bye, Zeppelin. Sorry, Jimmy Page.
Our middle discussion today, we're going to start with, the Grammys just occurred. So,
Yeah. Since
Chapel
last time
Roan, Pink did that cool. Did you see the video of Pink Pony Club? Because it's worth watching.
What? Wait.
I did not.
Her actual official video?
Live performance of Pink Pony Club is just fucking killer.
Oh, live performance, no.
They had her on a big old pink pony with a whole bunch of backup dancers.
I still don't think I've heard a Chapel Roan song.
and everything. It was really cool.
I mean, she's really cool.
Turns out Gibson,
I really dig her stuff.
Gibson made a guitar for their guitarist, and she didn't even see it until she got to play it on stage that night at the Grammys. So it was like, that's pretty cool. She said they had like 4 rehearsals before just for that, and she said the dancers had been there for like 10 days prior.
Well,
holy shit.
People might be confused because we just said the Grammys happened since the last time we recorded, but actually you're going to get by the time this comes out, there will actually have been another episode of this podcast coming out since the Grammys happened.
That's a very valid point.
The last episode was in the can before the Grammys happened, and now we're recording this after the Grammys.
Today is March 2nd, 2025. Correct. So if you're hearing this in whatever year,
in July
or in October of 2025.
So anyway, but yeah, the Grammys happened, and apparently Chappell Rowan did a thing, and I didn't see it. Some other stories. Apparently Kendrick Lamar swept another bunch of categories.
Yeah,
Beyonce had a really good year with her country album, a little crossover hit for her. They always talk about who got snubbed at these things. Taylor Swift got shut out. Billie Eilish got shut out, even though they both won several times before. Kanye, our favorite, showed up, was not nominated for anything, but showed up and crashed the party. Apparently didn't even have an invite, and they kicked his ass out, thank God.
Fuck that guy.
The whole thing with his girlfriend, that was kind of creepy.
Dude,
where he
that
had
was
her
so
take
nasty.
off the coat, and she's basically naked.
She was nude,
and it was just like
it
was like a control thing to have her walk around naked, like he owns her. Yeah, it was. Well,
it was disturbing, but he's disturbing.
Yeah, you know, we can leave it at that. Why give him any kind of publicity?
That was the first time I had seen her, because I saw the little clip of that. But that was the first time I had seen her, and you compare her to like Kim Kardashian. I mean, I don't know what the woman's personality is like, but compare her physically to Kim Kardashian. Tell me that Kanye does not have a type.
Yeah,
true. It's I want a clone.
Oh my God! If he could create a Kim clone, he would have already done it.
Yeah, that's nasty.
He's probably
Kardashian.
On the phone with like Elon. Can you make clones? That's not his voice.
Not yet, Kanye. Yeah, it is his voice.
Okay.
That's how he sounds. Pretty sure that's exactly how Elon sounds.
I was supposed to be Kanye, and I kind of went the other way.
That's a weird Kanye. Yeah,
but you know what? I don't want to try to do a Kanye because it'll come off wrong.
Might be Bianca,
I will make
though.
fun of the other guy, but if I try to do a Kanye voice, it's going to come out incredibly inappropriate.
Yeah, that's not a good idea.
Yeah. You should give him a Western accent then. Yeah, if I'm going to talk like Kanye West, I'm going to talk like this. Yeah, me and my bitch Bianca Sensori, yeah.
He's more like Wild West. Woohoo!
Yeehaw! Boot scootin' boogie. Oh my God. Yeah. Sorry. Oh boy.
God,
fuck these guys.
Boot scootin' boogie. That's a reference.
Brooks scooting.
All right, so I mean, the reason if it sounds like I'm relaying all of this stuff as if we like read about it after the fact, it's because we read about it after the fact. Because I didn't watch any. I don't know about you guys. I did not watch the Grammys.
Nope.
Yeah, I don't watch the Grammys. I don't watch the Oscars. I don't watch the Golden Globes, the MTV Music Awards, you name it. I stopped all that shit years ago. And frankly, if we had our choice, you would too, because the reality is, and this is really what we want to talk about, is why awards shows are utter bullshit and why you should be ignoring them as much as we do.
They're trash.
There's multiple reasons. Yeah, multiple reasons.
But we can focus on the Grammys because we are, music oriented.
Yeah. We'll focus on the Grammys as an example,
We'll beat on the Grammys because, well, the Grammys deserve to get beat on.
First of all, the record labels, and this is me postulating here, I feel that they just love these because it's like free advertising for them. Here's all our big artists. Here's all the popular people. The irony here is it's already the artists that are already well known. They're not even trying to boost marginally known. I mean, okay, you gave the example of Chappell Roan. I think she's kind of built herself up organically.
Right. At first she did, but then the record label realized they could make a ton of money off her, so they're pimping her.
Well, now they're pimping her. But at first,
oh yeah, hard.
I stumbled on her because she did the NPR Tiny Desk.
Yes.
If you want to go find new music,
watch
NPR's Tiny Desk. Every artist on there is 95% of the time. Okay, maybe 97.86. They're just all fantastic.
You should see some of the submissions to Tiny Desk Concert that didn't make it.
Oh?
I found a band called Throat Piss out of Austin.
I can't imagine how they didn't get chosen.
And they have a Tiny Desk Concert submission, and the song is called Intergalactic Space Kush, and it features an electric guitar, synthesizer, a saxophone, and a girl with a top knot with a bone in it screaming at the top of her lungs. I think they should have been on.
I have a funny feeling like somebody at NPR said, look, I know this is public radio, but even we can't say throat piss on
Yeah.
I want to hear who hosts the fucking Tiny. Yeah, I could just hear it.
So let me know when you track down Gigi Allen's rejected
oh Lord,
audition
yeah,
tape.
oh God, right? Oh God, that fucking guy. Damn. Yeah, I tell you,
Yeah, he was
something.
Every minute of his day was just about who can I piss off right now.
And hey,
Pretty much,
he saw
pretty
me
much.
play at one point. Apparently, I was told this. Yeah,
Oh, really?
When I was my band in high school.
Really?
It came out that he actually
Gigi.
saw us playing. He was at a gig that we were playing. He went for another band, obviously, but we were opening. So it was like, yeah, Gigi Allen saw us and had something nice to say.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Go on.
So, yeah, anyway, Cory, back to your point. Yeah, the labels of this, because it's free advertising, not necessarily so
Right.
much for new artists, but it probably drives some, in the past, drove some record sales, and now today probably drives some streaming. So it's a good way of pumping up publicity for stuff. But then I tell you who else loves it is historically is the actual TV networks that put these things on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because these things are, in terms of producing a TV show, these award shows have always historically gotten great ratings. That's been less and less the case the last few years, but they've always historically got great ratings. And dirt cheap for the network to produce, because you just basically you dangle these awards out there and you get a bunch of A-list celebrities to show up and be on camera, and you don't have to pay any of them to be there.
Good point.
Other than
Good
buying
point,
them
yeah.
dinner. So it's like these were always big ratings draws, and it cost nothing for the networks producing them. So yeah, there's a TV addiction to this stuff too.
And now with YouTube, they'll get all the clicks.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about YouTube in a second when we talk about why the ratings have been falling off for this stuff in the last few years. So, but that's definitely an aspect.
My big issue now with the Grammys, and maybe it made sense at one time, it's all the categories.
Yes.
Categories don't exist
agreed.
anymore, quite honestly.
No. they
Seriously,
do not.
everything has become blurred. You've got, rapping and overdub beats in country now. R&B artists like, Beyonce winning Best Country Album, and I think she only had one track on that album that would actually be considered quote-unquote country. And there's just...
Right.
I don't think there's any defined genres anymore.
No, in fact, I think the very first episode of this podcast, which I was not even on that first episode, I remember Scott though was, and Scott I think made the point that genres are bullshit. That in the 2020s, genres are absolutely meaningless anymore, and I totally agree, because everything's a crossover, and a lot of that is driven by the internet too.
Yeah, anymore.
Because it's also fragmented these days. There's so many different places where you can consume your media. You know, it used to be that everybody turned on the radio and heard the top. They called it top 40 for a reason, because every radio station was playing the same 40 songs
Right.
over and over again. And now you can go out and find whatever the fuck you want, and that's great. Great as a listener, and it's great as a musician. It like provides a market for people who might not otherwise find an audience. But it means that you don't have 350 million people listening to the same stuff. It means you got a pocket of 1 million over here and 100,000 over there and 200,000 over here. And so now the big trend with over the last few years has been, this is, Scott always talks about all these featuring so-and-so featuring so-and-so.
Yes.
They blend genres, they blend artists because they're trying to reach a wider audience. It's like Beyonce's country album.
Yeah.
You have a bunch of country artists who maybe would have never ever listened to a Beyonce song now suddenly listening to this, and you have an awful lot of Beyonce's fan base who maybe would have never listened to a country song listen to this, and so you grow your fan base that way.
Anthrax, Run DMC.
That was Aerosmith and Run
Aerosmith,
DMC.
Run DMC. Anthrax and Public Enemy.
Yeah, but
Public
it was Anthrax
Enemy.
and Public Enemy. So yeah, I mean, Rick Rubin was already
So I mean,
ahead
stuff
of
like
his
that.
time.
But again, those are crossovers that brought more people, and then they blurred those lines even further. So now, I mean, black metal, for instance, is known to have classical parts. It's known to have choral parts. It's known to have soft string parts. So who's to say what is black metal now? As it's not just defined by a fast surf guitar with some fucking reverb on it.
And that's just it. I mean, to Dave's point, I mean, the internet has gotten us to the point where everybody can hear everything, and barriers are broken. I go back to Real World Studios, Peter Gabriel, when he would go out and basically travel the globe and find other musicians and be like, hey, come to my studio, record here. Let's get your music out to the world. Not really appropriated. I think that's what David Byrne was doing for a while there.
Yeah.
But
that's a whole other conversation with him. But yeah.
Yeah, so what are they basing these Grammys on?
These
awards
that's
on,
another big question is like, what's actually driving who wins these things?
Right. Is it sales? Talent? How do you measure that?
And I don't think they do. I don't know. I don't think it's talent based.
What's the metric?
It's some sort of weird algorithm or metric, I think, that's driving it.
Well, I think there's human voters behind it, but I think it's an industry ass kissing. Like it's a question of like, oh, Chapel Rowan is getting really popular, and so we need to recognize that and show we're keeping up with the times and promote Chapel. We have to keep the gravy train going, basically.
Right.
So there's that aspect of it. Like everybody needs to glom on because it's all this internet-connected, somewhat incestuous industry. And then the other piece of that is it's this guy's turn, right? This guy's been in the industry for 35 years, and he's never won a Grammy, and God, he's going to die soon. And so it's just we need to let him win because it's just his time.
And I'm not gonna diss Chapel Roan because I really like her stuff, but to your point,
I gave Chapel Roan as an example,
but that's a good example.
Didn't mean
she's young, number one, so she's going to be in the industry a while. Number two, she represents the LGBTQ community. So three, they know that by promoting her, they're going to get more sales out of it. Now, I'm not diminishing her talent or her songwriting at all. I think she's fantastic.
Or the LGBT community, for that matter.
But I think that they're abusing that and picking her, like you said. There is the human factor, and they do have a lot of reasons why they pick things, and not always for the right reasons. I would argue that there's some of that in there, too, of like, hey, we need to help promote this. So let's get this out there. And I joked earlier about, I mentioned our thing about getting the 12 cassettes for 1 penny. It either A, helped drive the number of sales up because it's like, oh, look what we pushed out. But if you really look at those tapes or CDs that you would get, open them up. There's no liner notes. The only thing that was printed was the album cover, the list of songs, and that was also on the cassette or CD itself. No liner notes. It was blank.
They were just cheap pressings.
It was just cheap pressings. It was just to get the numbers out, and they were the ones that were most popular, so people would pick them, and that would then get further promotion for that artist.
The other aspect of that with the Columbia House Records and the 12 albums for a penny thing is they'd get your credit card number, and then they'd start. Once you got your 12 albums, they were counting on the fact that it's like subscription services today. They were counting on the fact that you would forget you were subscribing, and they would send you like every month suddenly like this weird odd CD that you never would have bought yourself just shows up in your mailbox. And
Dolly Parton sings about chicken bones. What?
Yeah, exactly. And unless you take the time and the initiative to ship it back to them, you end up paying for that.
Vanilli. Who the fuck are they?
Right. Yeah, these guys are pretty good. Yeah.
We got both kinds of music, scritty and politity.
Oh,
nice,
man.
Nicely done.
Yes.
I think the winners, like you said, but who are the people that are making these choices? Are they other musicians? Are they?
I think it's I don't know if you can generalize because probably every award show is a little bit different, but I think an awful lot of them it's industry insiders. You get picked to be on the Academy, basically. And it's usually like industry insiders, so record executives, maybe a select few artists who have been in the business long enough to like have a reputation. It's the industry just celebrating itself, basically. And that's why I say when it's all very incestuous.
It says the Grammy Awards are voted on by the members of the Recording Academy, which includes around 11,000 music industry professionals such as artists, producers, engineers, songwriters. These voting members are required to be active in the music industry and vote based on their expertise in specific categories, which again, categories, really? Okay, maybe for like best guitar sound, maybe, but come on. Beyond that, who had the best kick drum across, all the, give me a fucking break, genres.
So I think that's a good segue to another topic we've brought up here before is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah, another award show of sorts.
To me, it feels like a nostalgia gimmick to get all these bands and all, like Dave said, you get all these A-list band, you get Paul McCartney showing up, you get Bruce Springsteen, you get Madonna, you get all the big names showing up at this award show so they can get their red carpet pictures. You can interview them. Hey, what do you think about this? And then they're always trying to force bands back together. And I think the industry hopes that maybe by bringing them on stage and giving them an award, maybe they'll do a reunion tour. Maybe they'll be like, oh yeah, you know what? We do get along. Maybe we could do another album or tour together. And I mean, think about Journey recently. Steve Perry wouldn't even go up on stage with them.
Yeah, back to our band fights discussion. Like a lot of these guys, are not friends. Yeah. They are coworkers who, usually by the time you start talking about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, they are coworkers who are pretty much fucking sick of each other.
The only person Steve Perry actually spoke to was the new lead singer. Saw him backstage, gave him a hug, and said, "Hey, I wish you all the best."
Which is very gracious, because especially since they went out and found a kid who sounded exactly like Steve
they
Perry.
did.
But he wasn't going to perform with him. I think he realized that, going, I don't want to be around these guys.
It's like the whole Judas Priest thing, they didn't invite KK Downing and blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, God, guys, just stop. Yeah, the whole, it's such a charade, too. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Like Alex Lifeson said, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, this is Cory pointed out and shared the YouTube video earlier that Alex Lifeson probably had the greatest Rock and Roll Hall of Fame speech ever, which maybe we'll put drop a little sample of Alex Lifeson's acceptance speech in here.
It aptly sums it up.
It really does, because Rush got slighted for so many years. And even Getty's like, we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the fans and the fans pushing on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to at least acknowledge us.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah.
But there's a lot of bands that get in that we're like, wait, what? And there's some bands you're like, well, what? They weren't there already? So it's, again,
there's that.
It's an award show. It's free publicity. It's like I said, it's a nostalgia gimmick. And then it's the big jam.
It's the big jam. Yeah, at the Rock Hall of Fame especially, it's if to the extent that show is still interesting at all, it's mainly interesting for the performances more than who's winning the awards.
The recent Ozzy Osbourne induction, where they had Tool and Wolfgang Van Halen on the same stage playing Ozzy, and all these other guys. It was fucking crazy, and it was great.
Yeah, we just talked about Abbey Road and not on the Abbey Road album, but the Beatles generally, one of the best performances ever of While My Guitar Gently Weeps. George Harrison was dead already by the time it was recorded, because it was Prince and Tom Petty and George Harrison's son, Danny
Jeff Lynne,
and just a whole litany of other Jeff Lynne.
Yeah, amazing performance there.
Yeah, this stuff it kind of sucks, and we're not alone in saying it, because when you look at the rating, like I said, these things used to be huge ratings draws, not so much anymore. I got a longish quote here from a music business professor, George Howard at Berklee College of Music, that kind of sums up: as social media has risen, award shows generally have declined because award shows represent a very top-down structure. We, the institution, will tell you, the customer, what it is that you should like. Now that's been inverted, where it is we, the customer, will tell you, the institution, what we actually like. The problem is the big stars are completely dependent on the institution. So they have to play along with the charade that is totally self-congratulatory and totally divorced from any type of reality in order to keep the gravy train going, and people, frankly, do not care. So these award shows, like the ratings every single year, they've been dropping more and more precipitously, and frankly, at some point, some of them are probably going to disappear altogether.
I don't know how the Grammys are going to hold out. There's just so much out there, but to your point, it's not like 30 million people are hearing the same stuff. It's only pockets of people.
No.
We don't all have the same frame of reference, and even if you're into this, like even if you're somebody who still loves award shows, and I do know people who watch every single one of them, there are so many goddamn award shows right now. Like for the longest time, it was the EGOT, right? Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony. Those were the big four. And then it was the MTV Music Awards and the People's Choice Awards and the Golden Globes and the SAG Awards, and it just builds up. And even if you love this stuff, at a certain point, like fatigue just sits in, and you cannot be fathom the idea
No,
of sitting through
you
another
can't.
award show.
True.
All right.
dat.
So how should we recognize the artists that we like? How can we support them properly? I mean, if the award show are just complete bullshit and you're getting people that A, you don't know, and B, there's some you're like, okay, this person has no fucking talent. What the hell are they doing here?
And we get a lot of that, but
What is the best way to support them? I mean, if not for the award show, I'm playing devil's advocate here. The award show helps.
buying merchandise directly from the artist as opposed to through a label is a good way.
That's a very
lot
good
of
suggestion.
a lot of independent artists rely on merch sales
Yep.
from direct
Buy their
sales.
material or their music from Bandcamp.
Yeah, buy through their damn Bandcamp, buy through
their website.
Or their
direct
website or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
If there is some sort of like direct distribution and you can
yeah,
figure
fuck
out
these
how to
streaming
get,
services. They're
Yeah,
just
streaming is-
stealing money from artists.
I mean, it in some cases it's your only option because like
know.
not every artist has their own website or a Bandcamp
Right.
account. But if they are only on streaming, well, fine, stream it, but stream it legally so they at least get a few cents.
Yeah.
I mean, these streaming services don't pay great, but at least they get some money into the artist's pocket.
Yeah, being paid as an artist, it really
Yeah,
sucks.
I think streaming was aptly named because it really is just kind of piddling.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
It's a
trickles
trickle.
on the artist a few pennies,
we've-
if not fractions of pennies.
We
at a time.
discussed in some previous episodes, I think we discussed how much
Yes.
people were actually getting paid for 1 million streams and whatnot, and it's horrible. So
Yeah, Rick Beato's got a great video on YouTube that how much money you actually get
Yeah.
for a YouTube. I think he was using YouTube video specifically, but if you get like 1 million watches, how much money
Yeah.
that means in your pocket, and it's shocking how little it is.
you have to have X number of subscribers to even start monetizing on YouTube.
Yep.
And X number of views. You can't just because you have the subscribers. If you don't have the views, nope, you don't get money.
My recommendation is support local music. Go out to your local venues, your pubs, your bars. Go
Do
see
it.
the bands play. I recommend some of these bands that are tribute bands that go out there because a lot of the bands that they're a tribute band of don't exist anymore or no longer have any original members, and it's not worth going and seeing them for the Ticketmaster prices to go for the nostalgia.
Yeah, you're not getting a lot when you go to see Steppenwolf
Oh
anymore.
God!
I would argue you weren't
I'll
getting
just put
much
that
when
out
you went to
there.
see him originally.
Back in '92, when Scott and I were at Livestock and Steppenwolf was there wasn't much to
92.
see then either.
It was so it was
Yeah.
a sad biker fest.
They
is
were
what
the
it
Sunday
was.
afternoon of a 3-day festival. Yeah.
It was hilarious. It was like, oh look, it's all the geriatric
Sunday
bikers.
afternoon. The sun
Going
was
to be
still out.
wild.
Actually, I take that back. I kind of, when you said that, I kind of said
Crazy.
I kind of slammed Steppenwolf by saying I would argue you weren't seeing that much originally, but I had a brain fart. I was confusing them with Supertramp, not Steppenwolf.
Oh wow, Supertramp. Ooh,
I know,
I would
back
love
in
to
the
have
day,
seen
yeah.
Supertramp back in the day. That would have been awesome.
It's you know what it is. It's that like that. Yes,
It's just a little bit too
Ian
twee
Anderson,
for
John
you.
Anderson voice.
Give a little bit. Gosh, I like candy. Yeah, come here, little girl. Let's do nasty things behind the portalette. Or something like that. You know, those songs. Yeah, I get it.
Yes.
They're too twee.
So okay, let's just
Exactly.
leave it at this. Support your local artists. Try to go out, find music, step outside your comfort zone, listen to something different.
Oh, yeah.
Don't go by what people are telling you. Don't follow these big lists that they tell you.
You listen to metal? Go listen to rap.
Just don't go out and say,
Seriously.
oh, these are the best songs, or this is the best guitar song, this is the best bass
Right.
song. No, just, you know what, go out and find like a compilation where they've put albums and songs and listen to them for yourself.
Agreed.
Pick them in a random order and just listen to them. And then you could kind of compare them one against the other.
Send them all to the knacker.
Because then, you do it yourself. And then you kind of judge.
Now that we've covered why award shows are awful, here's our in memoriam segment,
Of
which
an
is a
award
direct
show.
ripoff of every award show you've ever said. Right? Yeah. Once again, time to pay tribute to
Right.
some of the albums we have loved and lost.
Loved and lost.
And now we remember their live, the song from an inspirational artist we lost this past year. Here with this special performance of Tom Petty's Room at the Top, please welcome Eddie Vedder.
Pearl by Janis Joplin. Fela Kuti and Africa 70, Expensive Shit. The Queen is Dead by the Smiths. I Want to See the Bright Lights Tonight by Richard and Linda Thompson. Here's Little Richard by Little Richard. Pretty Hate Machine by 9 Inch Nails. Queen, A Night at the Opera. Carole King with Tapestry. Aretha Franklin, Amazing Grace. Currents by Tame Impala. My Life by Mary J. Blige. Born This Way by Lady Gaga. And Little Earthquakes by Tori Amos.
All right, our second round brings back our reoccurring Cinderella story. Van Halen returns with their debut album with all the glam and all the swagger and come out swinging with some massive big guitar energy. This album is ranked at 292 and is one of 2 albums in our Sweet 16 from the bottom half of the Rolling Stone Top 500 albums of all time. Because remember, that's where we're getting all these from. However, this was when Eddie Van Halen's amazing guitar prowess and David Lee Roth's affinity and promotion for men's spandex were both thrust upon us. However, Cinderella is about to meet her prince. True musical royalty with built-in Wonder Twins power with the combination of big guitar energy and clothes so tight, geologists can decipher contour lines from 15 paces away. And this prince is bringing the revolution with him with his 1984 album Purple Rain that helped bring about the parental advisory label thanks to Darling Nikki, her magazine, and her Cobra Kai bedroom approach for grinding hard and showing no mercy. The album, its content, its cover, and the movie that goes with it will find itself encased in a museum hundreds of years from now with a placard that simply reads, "The 1980s in America." Prince got here today by beating out John Lennon's Imagine, then traipsing over Elvis Costello's This Year's Model, backhanding Nirvana's Nevermind, and then joining the Let's Beat Up Bob Club and taking down Bob Dylan's Bringing It All Back Home. Van Halen fought their way here by overtaking the Wu-Tang Clan and their Enter the Wu-Tang, see I gotta say it slowly, 36 Chambers album, then pants Paul Simon with his Graceland album and shoved him into the girls' locker room, went toe-to-toe Greco-Roman style with the Stooges Funhouse, and then finally, somehow, overtook the Beatles in their eponymous White Album. But before we start the round, I would like to mention that the female star of the film Purple Rain, Apollonia, was dating one David Lee Roth during production. Okay, so now we can talk about Van Halen's production.
True.
I didn't actually know that. Ted Templeman signed Van Halen after they had had a couple of failed attempts to get a record deal. And I was just telling you guys, I just watched the Yacht Rock documentary on HBO Max. That was spun off of a web series. You can find it on YouTube called Yacht Rock. That was actually made like back in 2005. Basically a bunch of comedians who invented this genre of yacht rock because it was not a real genre. But they invented this genre, and then they made up an entire like backstory for all of these artists that were big in the 70s. One of the highlights is as after Ted Templeman is spending a ton of time producing a lot of these like soft, mellow sounds of the 70s, David Lee Roth and Eddie Van Halen put a satanic curse on him so he gets violently ill every time he hears Michael McDonald.
Okay, wow.
It's worth watching. It's not crazy hysterical, but listen, it's 12 episodes. Each episode is only 5 minutes long, so it's a fun watch if you can find it.
So did the curse wear off when he was producing 1984 and they wrote Jump?
Good question. I don't know. That was their number one single that they had.
Well, the idea was the curse. They were trying to get him to stop producing Michael McDonald, so they
okay.
So they made him get violently ill every time he heard Michael McDonald sing.
Oh, just okay.
Wow.
So anyway, they had a hard time getting a record deal, though. We've talked before. Gene Simmons from Kiss had produced a 3-song demo that went absolutely nowhere. Basically, they were at a point in time when hard rock was kind of considered dead because everything was trending in the direction of disco and punk. But Templeman took a chance, put together a new demo, brought them into the studio, and really, between Templeman and a guy engineer named Don Landy, really behind the production on this album.
Because at that time, most of the 70s albums, they were just too polished and overproduced. So what Ted and Don Landy did was they really captured them live. They didn't put them in separate booths. They said, you know what, we're going to put you all in one room, and we want the bleed over.
They put Roth in a separate booth just so he could hear his own voice, but other than that, yeah.
But otherwise, all of the musicians were in one room. All the instruments were in one room because they wanted that bleed over. They wanted that live sound that Van Halen was doing at the Whiskey A Go-Go.
Well, they did a few overdubs.
Yeah, a few overdubs and punch-ins.
They did, but not very much.
They were saying Eddie overdubbed on the solo on Ain't Talking About Love with an electric sitar of all things.
Wait, what?
Yeah, no, that's true. No, that was Don Landy and Temple. Eddie couldn't remember which one of the two it was made the suggestion, but to make the solo on Ain't Talking About Love sound a little bit fuller, they added an electric sitar behind the guitar. And Eddie had never played one before. He didn't even realize it was supposed to be a sitar. He just thought it was a buzzy sounding guitar.
Wow,
it was. But that was a perfect They kept the overdubs to a minimum, but when they did, it was almost always a great suggestion.
The other thing they did was Michael Anthony's backing vocals and harmonies. They doubled those to make it seem like it a lot larger.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, Michael Anthony's just, I always call him like the unsung hero in that band. I mean, when you're in the shadow of David Lee Roth and Eddie Van Halen.
True, true.
And put him on the list of people that Eddie Van Halen eventually would shit all over by trashing him in the media and claiming that he didn't know anything about playing bass, and every single bass line Eddie have to record it, and Michael Anthony would make a videotape and then go back home and learn how to actually play what Eddie had done. Which both Roth and Hagar would later come out and say, absolute bullshit. Never once did I see that happen.
When you get Roth and Hagar to agree on something, it must be true.
Yes.
Yeah, Eddie wasn't known for being the nicest guy.
No.
Neither was Roth.
But yeah, they did a great job capturing the live sound. And there's little production bits like the electric sitar, like the car horns at the beginning of the first track, Running with the Devil. There's this strange sound. It's is that a car horn? Yeah, it's exactly what it is. They actually took, I think it was 3 different car horns that were all sort of pitched to the same range. And you hear this harmony of car horns and it fades out.
It goes into the echoplex.
And then you hear, the thumping of Michael Anthony. Boom, boom, boom. And you know, this shit is about to hit the fan as soon as the rest of the band comes in.
Very cool. Big rock intro, man.
No, and seriously.
It works.
I mean, really, the introduction to the glam rock that then followed. I mean, just perfect opening for it.
Totally.
They were completely progenitors to that because they were right there between the end of the disco era and the intro of the whatever the fuck rock and roll was in the 80s.
They were also coming out of the 70s arena rock, too. You had your Fog Hat, your REO Speedwagon, and Boston. And they were all really and Foreigner. They were all really just overproduced. The albums were good, but they were too good. And I think that these guys were very good already, but having that raw sound, I don't know how they did.
So good, Landy. They were so good. They were so tight. Like I said, they were trying to capture a live sound. Landy said that he would never work with a band this fast. That they had come in just absolutely prepared and had everything polished and ready to go, and most of what you hear on the album is in either the first or second take.
So the whole album took a couple of weeks, and it was
he said
$54K to produce the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dirt cheap in those days.
Honestly, David Lee Roth's swagger and charisma comes through over the speakers.
Oh, yeah.
So however they captured that,
big time.
Brilliant.
It does, but here's another example. So we talked about Andy Johns almost screwing up Led Zeppelin 4 with the bad mix in L.A., so Templeman almost screwed up this album.
Yeah.
They brought the band in, and the one piece that he was concerned about with Van Halen was Roth. He said that his screaming sound, it was identifiable in a good way, but every time I heard him get pitchy or completely miss a note, I worried the public was going to be put off. And so he came very close to suggesting to the rest of the band that they fire Roth and replace him with Sammy Hagar.
Oh, wow.
Because he already had an existing relationship with Hagar even back then.
Wait, what?
And so you nearly got Van Hagar right out of the gate. Now, Templeman has since said that would have been a huge mistake and he never should have even considered it. But yeah, Sammy Hagar was in discussions basically right from the get-go. So when they finally fired Roth and replaced him with Sammy Hagar, that wasn't sort of a new development.
See, I've always heard the story that Eddie and Sammy had the same car mechanic, and that's how they got hooked up together. And it was his suggestion that this occurred is the first time I'm hearing this. That's
the way it went. Maybe that's the way it went down when it eventually happened in the 80s. But Templeman had a relationship with Hagar all the way back to 77. So
probably with Montrose.
Could be.
Okay, so Prince,
yeah. So I said earlier when we were talking about Led Zeppelin, sometimes it's hard to tell, especially when you have somebody in the band who's producing, it's hard to tell where the songwriting stops and the production starts. Boy, is that ever the case with Prince, because Prince had this tendency to do everything himself. I'm not even sure to the extent that there's anything memorable about the production of this album, I'm not sure whether you call it songwriting, whether you call it production, because it was really just Prince running around the studio doing damn near everything himself.
I saw a video with his chief engineer, Susan Rogers, and she talked about how Prince would either call her or leave a note on the console the night before or call somebody at the studio, and he goes, "This is what I want." So you would go into the studio, you'd make sure guitar, bass were, all the instruments were in tune. If you wanted the piano out, if you wanted other instruments out, you had that, and then he would just come in and work. No small talk, no nothing, just this is what he wanted. He'd come in and he would just start working. And with a lot of these songs, that Lynn LM1 drum machine, he was like one of the first to really utilize that. He would probably have a melody in his head, but he would sit there, he would punch in the drum machine to get the track he wanted, and then just build everything on top of that. Unless it was a ballad with a piano. And just do it all.
When I read about it, Purple Rain was originally a country song that was intended to be a collaboration with Stevie Nicks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very weird. And she got like a 10-minute instrumental from him and said she couldn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, basically, she listened to it and it was sort of too good. She's like, she said, I'm kind of overwhelmed and I'm afraid that anything I would do to this would just screw it up.
Yeah.
Honestly, anyone that hears that feel like, no, this is yours. Don't give this one away.
Yeah, that song is just so perfect to me. I love that song.
When he gives away Manic Monday, when he gives away Nothing Compares to You. Yeah, I think those versions turned out really well.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine anybody else doing Purple Rain.
No.
Back to the topic, it's hard to judge this on production because you guys even doing it now, you're like crossing over into the songwriting discussion rather than...
Right, you're right. We are.
No, it's fine. You're illustrating the point that I make.
Nothing stands out.
I don't really know what to say about the production of this. I mean, it's fine. It's decent production, and this was also much more layered and dense than Prince's prior albums, and that all worked fine. So that's quality production. But like, it's hard to,
especially when
I'm just going to go ahead and vote honestly because I think I have to go with Van Halen because it's hard to point to anything about this album that is clearly a production plus as opposed to a songwriting plus.
Yes, Scott.
I see it more as because Prince, the album's heavily produced, whereas Van Halen is minimally produced.
Correct.
Van Halen is rough, but intentionally rough, and here you have a live band in the studio doing their thing, and here you have Prince writing some really amazing music. So rough matchup there, but production-wise, I'm going to give it to Prince.
Okay. Yeah, to Dave's point, I think a lot of it is because it's structurally built on a lot of electronica. It's built on the drum machines. There's a lot less of it's still a human factor, but as far as, you didn't have bass lines. That was bold. But that comes down to
when
songwriting.
When Doves Cry has no bass line, which is
That's
very
true.
unusual.
For production, I feel that the greater feat here was Van Halen in pulling off a live band and pulling that swagger and charisma and what Eddie's doing and balancing it with the rest of the band. So, and I'll bring some of that back up with the songwriting. So I'm gonna vote Van Halen.
Okay.
So songwriting.
Van Halen takes the production there.
Speaking of songwriting.
Yeah, so Van Halen was, frankly, I think they should get a little bit more credit than sometimes they do for the songwriting because they were really doing something that nobody else was doing at the time, which is kind of this balance of, putting aside the craziness of Eddie Van Halen on the guitar, but they were doing this balance of hard rock and pop at a time when nobody was doing it. So the idea of like pop metal, they pretty much invented that entire genre.
And quite honestly, you hit it. with that combination of like the pop and the rock, they were a party band. These were the guys that played parties. These were the guys that played the clubs. These were the guys that people came out, whether it was the guitar player wanting to watch what Eddie was doing, or people that have no understanding of what the guitarist does, or to be able to appreciate what he was doing. You had Roth. You had that visual of him doing all his dancing and theatrics on stage. So you got something, whether you were a musician or not. You were getting a show.
They were definitely a show band. I saw them live,
and
on the second album tour, and wow, fucking amazing live show. So
when I was doing some reading prior to recording this today, I came across a YouTube video, and it's one of those videos. It's not really a video. It's just like a still image. You're mainly listening to the audio, but they plug a still image up there just so you can look at something while you listen to the audio. It was I think it was about a 40-minute live performance from Van Halen playing a show about 9 months before they got signed.
Oh, wow.
And they're doing mostly covers, like they do Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo they did a cover of, and it just, to their point, like you can just hear the party going on in the background. Like everybody is just, they're having a blast on stage, and you can hear the crowd is having a blast. And
to go back to that, so you have Eddie Van Halen, virtuosic guitar player. No debate there. So they have some great hooks, but the songs don't always revolve around that. Yes, there's some great Eddie parts and all, but the songs are not, because of the rest of the band, because of the rhythm section and what David Lee Roth is doing. I felt that the songs were well-rounded, so that it wasn't just, we're going to show off our guitar player this whole time.
Right. There's stuff like Ice Cream Man.
Yeah.
And Jamie's Crying, some of the vocal
the harmony breakdown on I'm the One.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
That's the David Lee Roth.
Love
that's the swagger he brought.
They were doing something totally new, but to your point, Cory, like they weren't just trying to be like shred masters. I mean, they would give these nods to like other genres, other eras. Ice Cream Man, which you just mentioned, Scott, is a perfect example. What we just talked about with Zeppelin, taking a cover and making it their own. Saw that.
Yeah.
The fucking cat.
Scott's cat moving the microphone on him. So like Zeppelin, they had a great way of taking covers and making their own. Ice Cream Man is an example. Of course, You Really Got Me, which is the Kinks. So you get later on in their career, Diver Down is a bunch of covers and but it didn't sound like a cover of the Kinks. It sounded like a Van Halen song.
Well, that's the cool part about how they approach covers. It was they made it their own. As Cory and I have said, we've all said, you make the fucking cover your own. Do something different. And they did. So and so much so, I think the Kinks actually hated that version.
Oh, they did. Ray Davies, he.
That's hilarious.
I think we told this story before. Like the Kinks did a show in the '80s because they were still together at that point. And somebody came up afterwards and said he really liked their cover of that Van Halen song. And he got pissed.
Yeah.
All right. But on the other end of the spectrum, there is Prince.
Yeah.
There's Prince, but there's more than Prince.
There is.
Because like I said earlier, Prince had this habit of doing everything himself. But one of the things that's a little bit distinguishing about Purple Rain is for the first time, he really let more of the band members in to contribute. According to the people who were around, like Dr. Fink, who was his keyboardist at the time, said that he was always open to anybody who was trying to contribute creatively to the song. Lyrically, hands off. He was the chief lyricist, and he wasn't interested in hearing anybody's lyrics. Right. But when it came musically, he was always interested in anybody's ideas, and so it was a really collaborative effort that he had not adopted before.
I think the Revolution really rounded out a lot of what probably was in his mind. They added a little bit of something. I think that's the difference here between here and what we heard on like 1999. That was just all him.
Well, he worked with so many good musicians too.
Scott was just talking about the title track. I mean, those guitar chords at the beginning, that was Wendy Melvoin who came up with that, not Prince.
And lyrically, the guy has a way of like mixing themes of love, desire, faith, and transcendence, and making porn somewhat clean.
He also put it into a damn movie. The whole thing was a movie. So, and Purple Rain movie is not that great.
But it's a vision. It's a full vision. I'll give him that.
Not that great is giving
not
it too
that great.
much credit.
Yeah, I'm being nice.
You're only going for Apollonia.
I guess. I don't know what you're going for. You're not going for the battle apples, that's for sure.
Well, her battle apples.
Maybe so for hers.
But like we said earlier, so this was musically denser than a lot of his prior stuff. Multiple layers of keyboards, guitars, drum machines all over the place. Also really bringing together electronic instruments with non-electronic instruments in a way that was not very popular at the time either. Like it was, you sort of had like poppy music that used a lot of synthesizers, and you had rock music that used a lot of guitars, but bringing those two things together, you did not hear a lot of people doing yet at this point.
No, not yet. No.
And stylistically too. I mean, stay in your lane was kind of the mode of the moment in the 80s. It was people generally did not wander too far out of their own genre. But Prince was, I mean, he had already shown that he was not, back in 1999, he was melding genres together, but here he took it even further. So he's got like pop, soul, heavy metal, gospel. It's all coming in at this point.
Okay, so he recorded this in 83, and I just looked it up as far as like the combination of like the drum machine electronica and like the rock. 2 years before that was In the Air Tonight. Which, wow. I mean, now that I see it, it's like, yeah, bringing in the drum machine. I mean, it was a drummer that brought it in and was leveraging it. But as far as bringing it into, I guess, like the pop and the R&B world, it really wasn't there, and then it was.
Genres disappear.
We've talked about this before. Like Prince was one of those guys that just really embraced the concept of, if you like it, use it.
Yeah.
Don't worry about whether it fits the genre. Don't worry about whether it's like, if it sounds good to you, just use it.
All right. So let's vote on this. Scott?
On songwriting, I'm going to give this to Prince just because of the innovation, and again, no covers there. Just strict songwriting. I give this to Prince.
Dave?
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree. It not that there's anything wrong with the songwriting of the Van Halen album, but we've talked before how that sound got a little samey at a certain point, whereas Prince is all over the fucking place, and in a good way.
Yeah, and really, and we'll get to us, it really just became a defining sound, like I said. A museum a couple hundred years from now, it'll just be the 1980s placard, and it'll just be Purple Rain. Because I think everything about it,
there you go.
Film, soundtrack, music, just that's it. That's all you need to know. So, yeah, I'm also voting Prince. All right, let's move on to influence. This is
Influence.
This is hard.
Yeah.
The first Van Halen album is the launch of a 1,000 careers. 1,000, glam metal, long hair, spandex, leather pants, armadillos in their
Without
trousers.
This, we would have no Rat. We would have no Poison. We would have no Warrant.
Well,
she would not have cherry pie.
Well, but that would be good. But at the same time,
maybe
they brought back the trio. They brought back having a lead singer again. It's like
the power trio.
Yeah, the power trio. I mean, I'll say it gave us Mr. Big. I'll say it gave us Extreme. Even something like Rage Against the Machine down the road. I mean, you've got power trios
Tool
backed by a powerful singer.
Yeah. It gave you I'll jump on the Extreme example. It gave you Extreme, and it gave you Nuno Bettencourt.
Yes.
Because not only did they, like I said earlier, they invented this pop metal genre, and within 2 years, every frickin' label had 100 copies of usually poor imitations of Van Halen.
Yes.
But it also, the way Eddie played with the two-handed tapping and the harmonics and everything else he was doing, suddenly every guitar player was like, how the F is he doing that?
Yeah.
And so you get guys like Nuno coming up on the scene, because it to this day, guitar players are like looking at Eddie and taking that as a template of, I got to figure out how to do that. I forget who it was. It was some guitarist from some band. God damn it. I wish I had written this down. Anyway, you would recognize the name if I could remember it. He said that when he heard the first Van Halen album, he said he had two immediate thoughts, which is he was incredibly impressed and incredibly frightened. Incredibly impressed because he never heard anybody play like that, and incredibly frightened because he's like, I don't know how to do any of this, and I'm going to be out of a job very soon.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, to be honest, Nuno Bettencourt is out there doing stuff that people are going, oh my God, he's one of those poster boys for amazing guitar.
Oh yeah.
And just, wow. Go check out Extreme's new album. Worth listening to.
And the other one I left out.
Speaking of
Motley
Extreme.
Crue.
Oh, sorry. Oh yeah, Mötley Crüe. Yes,
the power
Yeah,
trio.
that's the thing. You cannot understand hard rock in the '80s without first understanding Van Halen.
yeah,
right.
It all traced back to them.
Oh
honestly.
yeah,
the
absolutely.
front man in the spandex, David Lee.
Yep.
Yeah, they were just the first ones to break out.
And
like
then,
that.
as you guys know, I love all of these albums that we talk about on this podcast come from the Rolling Stone Greatest of 500 of all time. So I always love when Rolling Stone, when their initial review, they shit all over it.
Yeah.
When this came out, Rolling Stone said, quote, "In 3 years, Van Halen is going to be fat and self-indulgent and disgusting and follow Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin right into the toilet."
Wow,
Yeah.
that's dark. That's
All right.
dark.
So Prince.
Another set the template for its genre,
Yeah.
pop music.
Yeah.
This was everybody wanted to make the next Purple Rain after this
Right.
album came out.
Everyone started using the drum machines more. Everyone started going, you know what? We could put this in. The guys that did Janet Jackson and Belle Biv DeVoe that worked for Prince. They took it and they just expanded on this, and it got huge in the late 80s and into the 90s. That was their career. Lenny Kravitz points back to Prince.
Michael Jackson.
Even John Mayer.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, I mean, yeah, you talk about recent artists who point to this album as an inspiration. Alicia Keys, Questlove, Beyonce, Bruno Mars, Janelle Monáe. Title track. I mean, Scott correctly said what a great song that is, and I still love that. It has been covered by some of these on this list. I blew my mind. Leanne Rimes, the Foo Fighters, Tori Amos, Elvis Costello, and even at age 68, before she died, Etta James did a cover of Purple.
Wow, cool. Guitar nerds should check out Andy McKee's version. Oh my God, amazing. So, and also John Petrucci, his version of Purple Rain.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah, just super wow. You've never heard anything like it.
Then you have, in terms of influence, you can point to the artists who worked with Prince, who got launched. They had their own careers launched because of this. So Wendy and Lee, I mentioned Wendy Melvoin, Wendy and Lisa, Lisa was the keyboard player in the Revolution. They went off and started a duo together. They were actually a romantic item at the time, but they went off and started a duo between the two of them. Morris Day, Jimmy Jam, and Terry Lewis, who among other things produced the Janet Jackson Control album that we previously talked about. Sheila E.
Control.
And then Cory, you alluded to this. Songs that he wrote for Purple Rain and decided not to use. Even the stuff he threw away from this album produced hits. So like Sheena Easton, the Bangles, all had singles with songs that were originally written for this album, but he just said, not really what I'm going for. When your garbage produces hits, that's not really saying something.
Prince did not write shit, basically. Well, he did sometimes, but boy, it sounded good.
All right, so let's vote.
Yes.
God, influence to me feels like almost a toss-up because it two different
does feel like it
directions.
does.
They were both, both huge in both directions. But if I have to look at impact and lasting impact, I will vote Prince. Scott?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to say Prince. I just because there have been plenty of others who have made significant impacts on rock guitar and that sound since then.
Yeah.
This felt like the first iteration of that type of sound, whereas others have perfected it.
I probably would have gone with Van Halen, but I agree with you that this is a toss-up. So I'm totally fine with the answer being Purple Rain.
Well, which one are you picking?
I would have gone. That's what I'm saying. I would have gone with Van Halen.
Okay.
But
Well,
what I'm saying is, I don't mind the fact that the vote went to Purple
No. But I
Rain
need to
is
know
my
your
point.
vote is for Van Halen, just in case. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
So Fluff.
Well, I felt
The Van Halen album is tight. I mean, it's not a very long album. It's only 35 minutes, and it's like 9-10 tracks. I don't remember the total count, but I would say nearly every single one of them has gone on to get to be a hit. There's maybe 2 albums there. I would say that I'm the One is not much without that Shooby-Doo-Wop breakdown. On Fire is kind of but on the most part, it's a pretty solid album.
I mean, overall, I just say great dynamics, variation on the songs. I have no notes for Van Halen. I feel like it's their first album out, which is an advantage in and of itself because they've been playing these songs for a long time in bars and able to test them out and get them, to mature where they're at. A lot of debut albums, that's why a lot of debut albums are usually very good because they're songs they've been working on for a long time. They've gone through many iterations. Can they repeat that in second, third, and any subsequent albums? That's the real tell.
Can you make the magic happen again? Yeah, exactly.
So they do have that advantage where everything really is succinct and works. And that's why this one, I would say, really no fluff, but it is because they weren't trying to come up with a whole new album. The label's like, oh, we need an album from you. It's like this one, it's like, a label goes, we want you to make an album. They're like, great, we got material. Let's go.
I feel like there is some fluff on Prince on Purple Rain. Just it's beyond Purple Rain, which could have just been a huge single all by itself. But the rest of it, a lot of it feels like filler around that song, propping everything else up. I mean, there's some other great songs, but still. So
my take on Purple Rain is I don't think there was much fluff when it first came out.
Right.
But if you're talking about greatest of all time, there's a lot of stuff here that is not held up so well.
Thank you. Yeah.
So like Take Me With You, Beautiful Ones, I Would Die For You, about the first half of Computer Blue, where there's that weird Wendy, is the water warming up? You guys know what I'm talking about. There's this like back and forth between Wendy and Lisa, and it's supposed to sound sensual, but she just sounds like she's been chained to a radiator for a week. Darling Nikki, like which is a great song, but when it gets down, it slows down and gets to that backmasking sequence at the end. I could do without. I would say out of if Van Halen is maybe 20% fluff, I would say that just based on how it's aged, Purple Rain is maybe 30% that hasn't aged very well. So that's why I tend to go with Van Halen as being the more consistent here.
Okay, so I think we all pick Van Halen. So
looks that way.
Let's see.
Which is a pretty big upset, actually, isn't it?
Is this the mighty Purple Rain getting knocked off?
Actually,
Van Halen in 2020, Van Halen was 292 and Purple Rain was 181. So Purple Rain wasn't at the top, but there was still over 100 spaces.
We're
between
tied.
The two.
Purple. Oh, geez.
They each
we're tied.
took 2 sections, and the total votes equal 6. That's why I asked you on the last one on Influence which one you were going to pick. It made a difference.
So we have a tie.
So we have
and we tied on total votes, but we bring in our second tiebreaker, and this is the first time we've ever had to do this, and so we'll tell you what it is. So what we agreed beforehand was if we got a tie on the categories and we got a tie on the total votes, it would come down to the album art. Which I don't know if any of us has spent a lot of time thinking about the Prince album cover versus the Van Halen album cover.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to actually look that up now.
The Van Halen cover album is the individual pictures of them at the Whiskey A Go-Go.
And it was shot at Whiskey A Go-Go, yeah.
Right,
And
that's right.
Purple Rain is the...
If you imagine, if you know what Prince looked like and you have an image of Prince in your head, that's the Purple Rain album cover.
Probably Purple Rain, yeah,
it's him on the motorcycle giving you that, like, sexy
with the purple
sneer.
coat and the fluffy shirt.
Yeah, Eddie with his Frankenstrat there, that's so cool. I love that.
You know, I've never noticed the woman in the background on Purple Rain.
I like the Michael Anthony shot, too. That's cool.
The other shot from Purple Rain, too, is, from Van Halen, is on the back cover with Roth bending over backwards.
Yeah.
Which is an incredible shot. It looks like he's about to break his spine.
Yeah, that looks great.
Can we see the where do we see the inside pictures? Is that like on Discogs?
I don't know. Probably just Google.
Well, I've been trying to do it through Google, but I'm not finding all the inner sleeves. I don't know. I mean, are we just going to go by the album cover?
We said album art.
Album art. Yeah.
Art.
So I mean, I guess technically, if there's inside sleeve, I don't know if there was any.
Prince and his badass motorcycle.
The other thing you have to consider about the Van Halen album is it is that iconic VH logo with the wings.
Yeah.
That's the first time. That's the first time the world ever saw that.
And I like what they did with the photograph. It's like they get them in motion.
Yeah. It's like, look, this hard rock band doing these hard rock things. Look, they're dancing. Look, you should be dancing too. Woo, dancing in the streets. Da, 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 da.
Okay, do we have enough to take a vote? Do we?
I'm good.
So as I think I said this before, but so we had agreed beforehand that if there was a tie between the categories and 2 categories went to each album, that the tiebreaker would be the total votes that went to each album. We'd add up all the votes, and well, that turns out that's a tie too. And so we had agreed that if that happened, then the second tiebreaker would be the album art, because that's an important part of the album too. So we're just now this is going to come down to which album we think had the best album art, and we're just going to vote and explain our rationale, and we're not going to belabor this. So I'll go ahead and go first, and because for me it's probably Purple Rain, and the reason why. So the album cover of Purple Rain, it's Prince on his motorcycle, his purple motorcycle, and he's wearing the purple jacket, and he's got the ruffled shirt. And the reason I go with this is because that really like set the image of Prince. To this day, even years after Prince's death, if you call up an image of Prince in your head, I guarantee you that's the outfit you see him wearing in your head. Mm-hmm. So that became like his trademark look for the rest of his career. So for me, that is enough to push it over Van Halen.
Scott?
I didn't even look at it that way. I just, I honestly like the Van Halen album cover more. So,
God
just
damn
it. Make this easy. Make this simple for you.
I was leaning towards Van Halen, but Dave made a really good point. This is iconic Prince. This is the outfit. This is the puffy shirt. This is the look he's given the camera is just iconic Prince. So, yeah, I'm going to vote Prince, and Prince wins by a nose.
Oh, the mighty purple rain did not fall. Okay, good.
The Cinderella story ends here. It came close.
Mm-mm. It did.
It came very close.
All right, so here's where we are. That means we now have our final 8 albums, because as we said at the outset of the show, this was the last round of the Sweet 16. So we're still talking a little bit about what we're going to do on the next show and how we're going to handle the top 8, but suffice to say for right now, it's going to be something very, very different than what we've done so far. We've got an idea that we're kicking around. So for right now, let me just recap. These are our 8 albums. Remember, we started with 192 albums total. We have now eliminated 180. What is that?
A lot.
4 of those. 184 of those. And our final remaining 8 albums: Led Zeppelin 1, Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, another Led Zeppelin album, Led Zeppelin's Houses of the Holy, Fleetwood Mac's Rumors, 2 Beatles albums, including Rubber Soul and Abbey Road, now which one today, Asia by Steely Dan, and now Purple Rain by Prince. So those are your final 8.
It's going to be greasy, children. Get out your battle apples, your cod pieces, and come prepared with a bucket of pork grease, because we're going to have a party.
And how that party is going to be held, we haven't even figured it out yet. So
not yet.
Tune in next time
when Cory will say,
I haven't got it edited yet.
Oh, okay.
No.
Well, he'll say something, though.
No, that's what I would say.
And he'll put it. Oh, I was going to say you're going to put it right here.
It's going to be late.
Oh, okay. That's fair. All right. Wrap your hands around that rascal.
Yep. All right. Push the button, Frank.
I'm pushing. Frank. Yeah, he's pushing something. Yeah, you're going to push it. I'm going to push that button. Mr. Ed goes to the glue factory. How do you want to rattle like this? Hold still, Mr. Ed.
Don't move. Let it happen.
Get your balls out of your mouth,
Damn
boy.
it.